Welcome to the Frugalpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Sarah St. John, and my guest today is a podcaster, mentor, energetic coach, global speaker, and author. Welcome to the show, Keri Lynn.
Hi, Sarah. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm curious, actually, what an energetic coach is.
It's a good question. So, a lot of people in the world, like in the personal development world, they might go and get coaches to help themselves with their mindset. I think only working with a mindset, which is what a lot of coaches will do, is a very limiting factor because that's only one piece of the puzzle of change. And so, when I start to work with my clients, I work with what I say is 5 bodies. And so we have an energetic experience. So the way that our energy field moves and is shifted in our bodies and in the world, and how we can ultimately, if we have blocks in that, we become less magnetic. We can be really stifled and people won't feel us or be magnetized to us. Or it can kind of be like when you walk into a room and you go, oh, that person you just kind of want to, you don't really want to be with. And there's that other person, you're like, I got to go and talk to that person. And so that's the energy, right? Because you know nothing about them. You don't understand their mindset or anything else about them or what they have to say, but it's the energy that draws them in. And so what I work with is the energy. You could have things in the physical space. So I've used feng shui. We can look at our physical bodies. A lot of people look at manifestation because I teach a lot about manifestation. And if we look in ways that people teach manifestation, oftentimes it's I'll visualize things, I'll think about things, I'll sit and meditate, but that makes everything very mental or up in the ethers. But we live in these 3-dimensional bodies in this world here on this planet. And if we don't have a body, our physical body that allows the ability to bring our manifestations into this planet, into this reality, then we're missing things there. So we can look at our physical body, mental, energetic, physical, spiritual. So our connection with the outside, I will say outside other realms or God, universe, source, whatever you want to call that. And then emotional, because we all have an emotional experience of life. And so if we're trapped in the emotions in our bodies or emotions that are even making decisions from emotional places that have been trauma or things in the past that have happened, and then we're playing out these patterns in the past from experiences that we've had in the past, then we can actually make responses because ultimately I think the way that we create success is things are going to come at us all the time. How we respond to it is going to be the difference between responding in a way that brings you closer to your dreams or responding in a way that keeps you stuck. And so a lot of times if we stay stuck in the same emotional patterns that we're playing out because something happened in the past that unconsciously you aren't even aware of, then you'll stay stuck in those. So I look at when we start to look at shifting your relationship with money and wealth, because that's what I really work with in the most experience, which ultimately leads to every area of your life. It really is an all-encompassing way of looking at change.
Oh, that's interesting. So, how did you get into that and entrepreneurship as a whole and kind of combining those?
So I started it must be almost 20 years ago, like 18 years ago or something like that, with neurolinguistic programming. So actually, before that was massage. So my original work is in body, right? And so it was always in that place of like, what's our body speaking to? My clients would come to me and say, I have this pain. And I would see people who were in workers' comp or in chronic pain. And then they'd come in, they'd seen everybody and they'd be like, Keri, what did you do? It was like 3 sessions or 2 sessions. And I'm like, because what was happening up in your mind or in your body, they're speaking to each other. So we have this interconnectedness, right? So that's where a lot of my work came from in the body piece. Body is always speaking. And then I started into NLP, which is the way that our mind processes and creates a whole bunch of pathways to be able to create change or stay stuck in the same loop. And then it started to evolve because I realized that, again, here in the mental aspect, it's only one piece. And so then I went in and did more shamanic work and more energetic work and more quantum healing work and more work with emotional clearing. And I would call it emotional alchemy, really in looking at that process of how we play patterns in our emotions. And through it, when I first started, I was working for a company that was a personal development company. Call it like a Tony Robbins style company with a smaller, wasn't quite Tony Robbins, but it was the same thing. We were putting on big events all over Australia because I was living in Australia at the time. From there, I just started going out on my own. I love the fact that there is freedom in being an entrepreneur. I love that we can do this type of work, even you and I sitting here somewhere else in the world and have conversations and be able to share this message and have clients around the world. So I love the lack of limitation that this life offers us. And we have there's billions of people in this world. If we look at this from an unlimited perspective in entrepreneurship, then there's billions of people that we can help when we start to open up the doors to what's possible.
So, how long were you in Australia? Because I hear an accent here and there, like one word every so often.
No,
Yeah, but it's like, I guess you weren't born there though, or grew up there.
No, I was born
Okay.
in the Chicago area, and I moved to Australia when I was about 23, and I was there for about 15 years, and we moved to Denver. We left Australia about 8 years ago, almost exactly, and we did a 4-month trip around the world with I had, one of them turned 4 boys. I have 2 boys. One turned 4 and one was 7 at the time, and we ended up in Denver, and a
Okay.
totally unplanned international move. I definitely don't recommend that.
Mhm, mhm.
But but it worked. We are here, and it was exactly what the world asked us to do, gave us. It was a challenging year, that is for sure. Um, but it was worth every part of it, the trip especially.
Well, it's just so interesting that you occasionally have kind of an accent, but it's like, I just assumed that that only happens if you're born and raised somewhere, not like if you just spend a few years somewhere, but I guess it catches on or something if you
It
spend
does,
enough time. Yeah.
it does. Well, it was kind of a choice too. A lot of people in Australia were enough making fun of me, so I decided I'd start to. And there's certain words that are Australian, I would say there, that are very Australian words. And also I married an Aussie. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I lived with him for a while and
Yeah,
rubbed off.
exactly. Awesome. So we initially connected in a Zoom call situation with several people. And there was something you had said that I really wanted to get into about working 4 hours a week.
Month. 4.5
Oh,
hours a month.
yeah, that's right. That's even better. Four and a half, 4.5 hours a month and making six figures.
Yep.
So can you explain that?
Yeah. So I think a lot of what I see in the world when I start to look at people's money mindset. So I've been doing this for a long time and I've heard just about every story that any human can come up with and any I'm going to say any shame, any judgment, any things that people feel shamed or judged for, they come to me and I'm like, yeah, totally. It's actually totally normal for many circumstances, right? And one of the big things a lot of people have is that they have to work hard to make money. That's what a lot of people have been bred to believe. I have to work hard to make money. So I actually come from a very wealthy family. And when you come from wealth, you can start to see that, yes, there's hard work for sure. There's no doubt about it. And you can leverage your time. I think that's where a lot of people mismatch things. And they think that it's like, my time is what's the value. And so if I don't put my time in, I won't make money. For me, what it came down to is I actually ran a leveraged mastermind and I ran a high end mastermind. And when you put enough people into a high end mastermind and you run a few calls a month, that's all you need. Not just that. I won't say that's all you need. I also believe in multiple streams of income. So, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss this. A lot of entrepreneurs I talk to miss this. And they are so focused on their business that they put all their money back into the business and all their time and all their energy and all their effort. I need to go do marketing. I need to go do sales. And it's true. There's so much that we need to do for our businesses, right? When we go outside of that, if we also have other money working for us, because anyone who's been an entrepreneur or business owner themselves long enough knows that you're going to have ups and downs of business. We're going to have highs. We're going to have lows. We're going to have times when money comes in, times that the cash flow is not so high, right? And when you're smart about it, then you can plan for that. But sometimes it takes time for figuring out the plan for that. And also, when we have multiple streams of income, when one drops a little bit, the other one is there to support you. And so that's part of leveraged income, leveraged money, is that we don't want to put all of our eggs into one basket. And how can you get over yourself to leverage your time to allow yourself to make money doing what you love in a leveraged way? Whereas and I see this a lot for people who are running their business one-on-one, like with a lot of one-on-one clients, there's only a certain capacity you can get to, right? At some point, you're going to run out of time. And so at some point, you cap your income. Then at some point, you need to learn that you can go into group things. And once you go into group things, it's actually infinite because you can put as many people as you can hold the capacity to. And even at that point, I think there's a lot of people who it's like you can make a lot of money doing it and not a lot of people who, when we start to look at money goals or we even start to have comparisonitis to other people in business, right? It's like, I want to have the 7-figure business. I want to have the this, I want to have the that. And it's like the go, 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 go. But oftentimes, and again, can be an interesting piece to look at. Oftentimes I see this a lot with the 7-figure entrepreneurs I work with, that they could have 7 figures, but that doesn't mean that they actually receive 7 figures, right? It still might be the same $200,000 that they made working with their one-on-one clients. And then they have all the team and they have all the stuff and more of the energy and it's so much more to do, but they're actually still bringing in the same amount. And so it's a lot of these decisions I think that people have to look at and consider when it starts to look at the leverage. And what is it that how much money do you actually need to live the life that you desire? And what do you need to do to get there? And a lot of it is actually much easier than you think.
So when you say like leverage time and all this stuff, you're not even necessarily talking about like hiring a team. You're just talking about finding a way to, like with a mastermind or any kind of group situation, you're only maybe spending an hour a week on a
Hmm.
call,
Hmm.
but you have, who knows, 10, 20 people paying $1,000 a month, or I don't know,
Right? Right.
whatever.
Yeah. 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 Hmm.
Yeah. So is that, I guess that's what you mean. It's kind of
Hmm.
set your business up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
Okay.
I did. It was an hour and a half, 3 times a month. And yeah. And they were paying 1111. That's what it was, 1111 a month.
Okay.
And I was teaching at the time crypto, DeFi, money management, how to invest. So I was again then teaching them how to leverage themselves to be able to make money for themselves without actually having to work. I wrote a book called Save Your Assets, the financial framework that I wish I knew before throwing 100K down the drain. Because a
Mhm.
lot of what happens when we start to go do this, when you want to go start leveraging this, is that we make mistakes not knowing how to go and invest. We just start throwing money different places. And this is the same with your business. It doesn't have to be just an investment as far as going out for another stream of income. But if you don't know how to research, you don't know how to make the decision, you don't know what to do to think about the way that you're going to really invest your money, then you end up throwing your money down the drain, right? I mean, I'm sure, Sarah, you've been to a place where you've seen a coach or you've gone into a marketing thing and you're like, yeah, that was a waste of money. But oftentimes it's because we see this thing, we're like, it's like a shiny object. I think it's going to
Mhm.
actually make myself better, but really it wasn't what you needed. Or I didn't know how to research it, or I ended up with a person who was the wrong person. It wasn't that you didn't need it, it was the wrong person for the job. And so it's the same thing with investments. And so I taught at the time, like, how do you actually make these decisions? How do you actually figure out where's the right place to leverage yourself into? All that kind of stuff. So, and how to stay safe in a wild, wild west of the crypto space. So, yeah,
Do you still run that mastermind?
I don't run that mastermind anymore. For me, a lot of what I think is going to be some of the stuff that people want to know about the crypto space is more in the volatile space, and in the space I was working in decentralized finance. In decentralized finance, this is totally like a side note, but also interesting. In the crypto space, ultimately, do you know anything about crypto?
No, not really. I don't.
So I'll explain this really quickly, that in the decentralized finance space, so in crypto, you have what I call volatile assets, which are like Bitcoin and ETH, right? They go up and down. People watch it. One day it's 70,000. One day it's 38,000. People make money. People lose money, right? But that's a volatile asset. So it's the same thing as like the stock market. The stock market, you can put your money in. One day it could go up. One day it could go down. You never really know. You could make some, you could lose some. So in crypto, there's also a space called decentralized finance. And ultimately, it's like a banking system. So when we put our money into a bank, you get savings, right? You can have a savings account and you might make 1 to 3% right now. There's actually 3% accounts right now, which is great, actually. It's going up. And in that, the bank takes that money and it actually lends out the money. And the bank can lend it out 10 times. And in that 10 times, it could be making 20% for credit cards, it could be making 7% on a mortgage, it could be making however it lends it out, and it gives you that 1 to 3%. In the DeFi space in crypto, you are actually the bank. So when you lend it out, you're lending it to somebody else within the crypto space. There's a way to do this through smart contracts that is its own beautiful genius in the crypto space on the blockchain. And then instead of the bank making the money, there's a way to make anywhere from, these days, again, like, it dropped, which is why it kind of all got really slow. And it wasn't worth the money for me to teach it for what they could make, is really what it came down to. Because it started to drop down to more like 1 to 3% in this low place. But now it's back up to, like, you can start looking at places where you can be making anywhere from 8 to 20% probably. When I started learning it, we were up to sometimes 20 to 30%. And it compounds daily, just like on the banks compound daily. So they make a lot more money. Whereas if it's compounding daily in the banks, we might be making it monthly or quarterly. And so we actually become the bank in the crypto space. It is totally being able to decentralize yourself and become the bank, and they have no access to your money. And so it's a really amazing way to, again, leverage yourself and make more interest than you could if you left it in this market. But what happened was, again, it dropped so low that for me to run the mastermind, it didn't make sense financially for the people involved. And I don't want to teach volatile assets because I think it's throwing a dart at a wall and hoping for the best. And I don't want to teach, it's really risky. A lot of what I like to teach is the way that you can do this in a leveraged way that you're not going to lose all of your money. So all my clients made money in the end. They didn't go in and end up losing a whole ton of stuff because I didn't want to teach that. So when you can teach, so I look at it too, like, it's important to kind of play with some of that money and play the high risk game, because that's where you can make some really big wins. but it's also important that not all of your money is in high risk. It doesn't matter what market you're in, whether it's
Mhm.
crypto space or whether it's in the normal traditional market. You don't want to be having your money all in the volatile asset space where it's all up and down and you're hoping and it's a lot of risk.
Mhm.
So people lose a lot of money that way.
That's interesting. So I guess then when creating a mastermind, if you're wanting people to pay, because about $1,000 a month, isn't that kind of the average for people to pay for a mastermind, give or take?
I think it depends, it depends on the
Yeah.
person. You can go into masterminds for less.
Yeah. But I guess they do tend to be like a higher
Mhm.
ticket than, say, like an online community or whatever.
Yes.
So would one of the requirements then for a successful mastermind be that the people in the mastermind are, let's say it is $1,000 a month, that they are able to, from whatever information they're getting in the mastermind, that they're able to then make more than they're spending to be in the mastermind? Or is that not even?
Well, it depends. I think it's an intent. I think that would be a good intention. I mean, that's why I stopped
Mhm.
mine because I knew at that point, first of all, I was going through divorce and I was like, I just need to have my own little space over here. That was number one. But also, I was looking at it like value. I was at the point of, I don't know that you're going to get the value out of this that makes it worthwhile. That said, and I'd given them a lot of information to go off and be able to do a lot of it on their own by this point, right? They were fully equipped to go and do a lot of this on their own. So they didn't need me anymore, which is great because I think we don't necessarily want people dependent on us. There's masterminds that are around health and there's masterminds that are around relationships. There's masterminds that are not actually financially value based. And I think when we can look at the intangibles of that can be far greater than $1,000 a month. So if you
Mhm.
want to go and find your man of your dreams or your hot woman of your dreams, and that's really important and valuable for you, then maybe being in a mastermind that's $1,000 a month to be like, all right, I need to work on myself to figure out what I'm doing in my own life. That's meaning that I don't go out and do this or what are the places that I need to shift in my life, then there's people who will pay anything for anything. But also, like, sometimes we can run a mastermind at that level that might be more like $300 to $500 a month.
So are you planning on launching another mastermind in the future?
I have been thinking about it, and I have been
Oh,
thinking
okay.
about doing one that's money based, but not necessarily crypto based, but more
Mhm.
around a way that we can all get together to actually start to be held accountable and dive deeper into the relationship that we have with money. Because for me, that's really where I love to work is our inner world around it. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, then from there, it sets the foundation that no matter where you take this information, whether it's in your sales, whether it's in your marketing, whether it's in investing, you allow yourself to magnetize and bring in that which you desire. And ultimately, the way that I see this and when I see this with my clients is when I start working on money, their intimacy goes up, their sex life gets better if they have a partner. Otherwise, they tend to call in partners or partner things shift often when they start doing this because it is all connected. And I
Mhm.
look at from a very, if I were to go deep with this perspective, that we run a life force energy within ourselves. Our sexual energy is the energy that we run all day long, every single day, that is our life force, that is our magnetism, right? So if you
Mm.
walk out again, if we look at energy, if you walk out into a room and you're the person in the room that everybody wants to be, or you see that person, you're like, she is just radiant. I want to be like that. I want to go and talk to her. I want to go see her. I want to go see him, whatever it is, right? And that is oftentimes that somebody is really connected into their life force energy and they're radiating it. But that
Mm.
life force energy is the same as your sexual energy. And so when you can start to play with this and know that they are the one and the same, then we can turn it on. And it doesn't mean that you need to have sex. It doesn't mean that there's even like you need to have a partner for this. I spent many years cultivating this in a marriage that was sexless, but it means that you build a relationship with yourself enough that you know how to play with this energy and move it and be with it and allow it to flow because a lot of people have totally blocked it out from shame, from guilt, from dogma, from it's not okay, it's my partner has to turn me on. It's only for sex and only in this moment in time for the 15 minutes a day that I have it in between kids and work and that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, okay. So I guess how do you tap into that or unblock it? Or yeah, we're
Yeah,
we're we're kind of, I feel like we're all over the place, but we're covering several topics here.
several times. That's what I'm saying. It's so funny, right? Because they're all
Yeah.
interconnected, whether it's like, so how do we turn that on? First of all, it is like the piece of, and this is where we start to look at the unconscious stuff, is those pieces of what's stopping you. So what's the shame around that you've carried around this experience in the first place? Because most of us have been trained that it's not okay, it's not safe. And especially as women, if I go out into the world and I have this radiant self, I'm going to attract men. Men's attention can be really dangerous. It can be really gross. The catcalling and the this and that and the other, right? So we have to look at that piece, our safety within ourselves first, why we blocked ourselves, right? What was the story that we were told? What's the story that we believe to be true around if I turn this on and if I live from this space, I am shamed. I will be put down. And so until we've actually looked at that internal noise and stories that we tell ourselves, we'll continue to block that. And for men, a lot of times I've noticed that they'll have some sort of block around receiving. And actually both men and women, right? As women, we're supposed to be born to be allowed in our feminine, when are truly in our feminine, to receive. And that same block of receiving that happens from our sexuality is the same block that receiving happens in our money. If I'm blocked from receiving, I'm blocked from receiving. And so when I won't let somebody look after me and care for me because I'm super independent as a woman, which is where so many women have gone right now. We've leaned so far in our entrepreneurialism of, I'm a super independent woman. I can do everything on my own. I'm going to retire my husband. I got it all. Don't worry, sweetheart. It's all on me. Right. And from that point, then we stop ourselves from receiving. And then we stop ourselves from receiving that love. We stop ourselves from receiving their care. But we also stop ourselves from receiving money, or we block the money that we want to receive, or we block the higher level, because what's going to happen if I go to the next level? And even if we go to what's to happen if I go to the next level and I'm going to burn out because I can't handle anymore, because I don't actually ask for the help that I need. And so that in and of itself, you see how like they're so intertwined, as the leaning into receiving can be a really big block in so many ways from both of those places. And I see this a lot with men, because a lot of men are conditioned to provide. And so they provide, they provide, they provide. And oftentimes, I don't know if we have it here, but I know in Australia, the saying is happy wife, happy life. And so I'll do everything to keep my family and to provide and do everything. And all of a sudden, it's really interesting, because I can see this often where a lot of people will go, oh, the man has it so easy. They just go off to work, and the woman has to do all the things around the house. And like, there could definitely be some balance in all of some of this for some people. And a lot of men will give and give and give and give and give until there's nothing left. And they have no idea. And I've met so many men in my dating world that have no idea how to receive. And I'm like, it's okay. You can just chill there. Let it be. Just let me look after you. And a lot of men really struggle with this. And it's that same concept that will come in through money. They struggle to allow themselves to receive. And so when we start to look at all of these nuances, we can start to see, where is this playing out again? And it's like, it seems like it's all haphazard, right? But where is this playing out in all areas of your life? Because they will be intertwined.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about the fact that if you're not open to receiving in one way, it would impact money as well. Hmm. Sweet Dash is the ultimate all-in-one business software platform designed to simplify your operations and supercharge your growth. Say goodbye to tech tool overload and hello to a single unified system that handles CRM, proposals, scheduling, contracts, invoicing, subscriptions, project management, client portals, file sharing, and marketing, all in one place. With Sweet Dash, you'll enjoy one login to streamline your business, saving you time and sanity. No code automations that put your business on autopilot by slashing manual tasks. The real kicker? Unlimited users and clients. This means you can invite your team, clients, and contractors without worrying about extra fees. But Sweet Dash isn't just about software, it's about community. Their roadmap thrives on user feedback, and live support sessions ensure you're never alone on your journey to success. Trusted by tens of thousands of small businesses with over 1,000 glowing 5-star reviews on Capterra and G2, Sweet Dash is a platform you've been waiting for. You can try it free, no credit card required, at sweetdash.com. That's SUITEDASH.com. Sweet Dash. One login, one platform, one low price, unlimited potential. You have a book, and you talk about holding on to generational wealth.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. My book is called The New Wealth, Magnetize Abundance, Hold Your Wealth, and Leave a Legacy. So when I started doing money work and I was trying to find my niche in the money world, there's a lot of people who do this work. And when you get into personal development, I actually started to look at, because I said I came from wealth, and I actually started to look at, for me, my money stuff. That's where it all started. Was I was like, why am I struggling in my business to make money? I understand all these big concepts, but I'm like, I still struggle. And when I would go into money programs, they would talk about money from the place of money is bad, money is the root of all evil, money, you have to work hard, all these things that we started to talk about, right? But I'm like, I don't have that belief. I know people with money aren't bad. My family is amazing. They've given in so much. They've done so much in this world. So money isn't what made it bad. So then I was like,
Mhm.
so what's my thing? And so then I started to dive into this. And it's ultimately what they say is whether you win the lottery, get an inheritance, whether you've had an insurance payout, whether you've been through divorce and you have a settlement, whatever. You receive a lump sum of money. This happens, and I started looking at this, and this happens with entrepreneurs. So all of a sudden, as entrepreneurs grow their business and they start to have bigger launches, bigger money, more amounts of money come in, right? So you go from one-on-one clients to maybe you make a launch where you get $10,000, and the next time it's $30,000 and $100,000, and you start to make more and more money. But most people will say, as soon as it comes in, out the door it goes. Doesn't matter how much money I make. And at the end of the day, they're still like, where's the money to pay for everything? They're still chasing their tail. And so, because then as they increase their income, they also increase their expenses. I'm going to have more team. I'm going to have a higher level of support. I'm going to have a higher level of technology that's going to support me, all these things. And so, or I'm going to go into a bigger house. I'm going to get a nicer car. I'm going to fly first class. Da, 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 da. What I started to look at is it's the same concept. Is like a lot of people are taught, now we learn, we can manifest money. We can tap into this flow of manifestation. But then where the next level is how do I now hold this? And a lot of mental stuff here is worthiness. I'm not worthy of having this money, so I'm going to piss it away. I don't know how it can be a physical thing. I don't know how I actually set myself up to hold the money. And I always say, like, money will come when it has a space to come to. And so if you set yourself up to, where am I going to receive this money? Where is it going to go? What am I going to do? What am I going to use it? How am I going to invest this? It will come, but then you also have the physical aspect of, where am I putting this so that I can hold on to it? And again, a lot of entrepreneurs won't look at this because they're too busy investing back into their business. And that can be where it goes too. And so it's the same concept as to whether you inherit money or win it somehow, as to entrepreneurs, that we get all this money and there's some worthiness issue of, I'm not worthy of holding on to it. I'm not worthy of keeping this money. If you come back to rich people are terrible, they're bad people. But there's a lot of classification in our mind of what we think is rich or
Mhm.
wealthy. And so that then takes in and goes, well, I can't actually hold this money. And so I'm going to find a way to get rid of it because it's bad for me to have it.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. I imagine that's like a subconscious thing, like people
Mhm.
aren't.
Because we don't learn this. We don't talk about this. Like, and generally speaking, money isn't a topic that people sit down and be like, hey, I've got this money issue. Because a lot of times, like, and this is what I started by saying this, a lot of times there's a lot of shame and judgment that we
Mhm.
carry in this story and that we hold tight. And if people start talking about it, it's like, and especially in business, as you're growing your business, well, you're going to judge me that even at the end of the month, and I have a multi 6-figure business, or finally I've been growing my business, but at the end of the month, even if it's an $80,000 a year and you finally hit that point or whatever, I still have nothing to show for it.
Mhm.
Or I'm still having these financial issues, and we tend to hold this all in because there's so many times where we've been shamed and judged
Mhm.
for this that people don't talk about it. And so it's one of my favorite parts of the work I do, is because it's a truly safe space. Like I said, I've heard it all. Like, you can tell me anything and I'm going to be like, yep, sure. Now let's work that out so you don't do that again. And a lot of people don't even have a clue that they're doing that. And they just sit there going like, what is wrong with me? And feeling like they're banging their head against a wall of like, didn't I get through this? Didn't I move? Aren't I making more money? Why am I still here? Why am I still stuck?
So you've talked a lot about manifestation and as even in terms of money. Do you have any tips on manifesting money? Like, how is it just a concept of just thinking and believing and of course taking whatever necessary actions, but can you explain it more?
Yes, it is thinking and believing. I think a lot of people, when it comes to manifestation, actually limit themselves in their manifestation. And so I always kind of say, to begin with here, to shoot for the stars and hit the moon. And so I think a lot of times when we're shooting low for what we want, it's like, not that it's too easy, but we don't give ourselves what we really truly want. And I think this is the gap where people are like, it's not what you actually really want. You're actually not giving yourself what you want. And so when we first start to go, what is it, if I could really have anything in the world that I want to dream of, what is that? Because otherwise it's not your true alignment. And when you go for your true alignment, I think when we quantum leap things, everything is possible. So whether it's, I want to have $1,000 or I want to have $10,000, everything is possible. So why don't you just ask for the 10,000? Because that's what you really want, not the 1,000. Like, the 1,000 is kind of shortchanging yourself. But the other thing that I'll say about it is it's a muscle. So I say it's kind of like going to the gym. You got to build your muscles in the gym. Your manifestation muscle is a muscle to build too. So one of the tips I often give to people when you're first starting out in manifestation, in this way, it's funny because I just said dream big, yes, but also practice small and set yourself up to win. So I'll say, start practicing like every day, set your intention that you want to manifest something, whether it's like, I want to see a butterfly today, and then allow yourself to see a butterfly today. Now, the butterfly, and this is how we also have to think, because sometimes what happens when we go to manifestation is we look at it like it has to come one way. And if it doesn't come this way, then I didn't get it. But if I say I want to see a butterfly today, the butterfly could show up on a sticker, it could show up on a magazine, it could show up on the back of a car, it could show up in real life as there's a butterfly outside. It could show up on, look, I should have said dog, right? Because you're wearing a dog on your hat, right?
Yeah, I actually just had this hat made recently with different patches.
Right?
I'm
Right? I love
I
it.
have a pug, so anyway.
So if I had said dog, right? So here I am with Sarah, and Sarah is wearing, if you guys are just listening, Sarah is wearing a hat that has a pug on it. So then I would have been like, thank you, universe. Thank you so much for showing me a dog. And then you're like, I built that muscle. Thank you. It was so easy because you don't freaking care if you see a dog.
Yeah.
Nothing change in your life if you see it or not. The thing that changes is your belief in yourself that I could ask for something and get what I asked for. The part where we then attach to where it comes from, like I often tell this as this explanation that imagine that you're sitting out and you're stranded in the ocean and you ask for a boat to come and save you. Now this boat comes by and it's a rowboat. You're like, that's not going to save me. But you could say, God, I asked for a cruise ship to come and save me, or I asked for something, right? And the towboat comes by and you're like, no, thank you, I'm good. And then the next day there's a sailboat that comes by and you're like, no, thank you, I'm good. Because it isn't exactly what you asked for. And then all of a sudden one day you're out there and you're like, God, why did you not rescue me? I'm like dying out here. And God's like, well, I did. I sent you 3 boats. You just didn't. And it wasn't the thing that you thought you wanted. And so sometimes we have to be really observant into it. It won't necessarily come the way that you think it will. Sometimes I'll ask for $1,000 and I think it'll come from a client. Recently, I just got a check for $220 from a sale that I made a few years ago that was on a payment plan, and the final payment came in and there was a check that came in for $220. Thank you. Do I care where it came from? And so then by doing this, we build our belief in, I can see this and I can see where it shows up. And I release attachment to how it shows up. And again, this is part of that experience of, again, leveraged money too, because then it can come from wherever it is. I'm always open. Like wherever you want to give it to me, I'm open. Instead of shutting down, like it only comes from this one stream. And if it doesn't come from this stream, I'm screwed. If it doesn't come from this boat, the lifeline, then I'm screwed. And then we keep building that muscle and keep building that muscle until one day when I'm like, you know what? God, I would like to have $10,000 show up, and there it is. Because you believe it. But right now, if you were to go and ask for $10,000 and you didn't actually ever have any of the skill to do this before, the likelihood of it coming is not going to happen because you won't believe it to be true. You won't believe that you have the power to create that.
Yeah. So should we almost maybe every day practice this by saying an example that you'd like to see a butterfly, and then, yeah, maybe you don't see a real one, but you notice a sticker, like you said,
Right.
or I'd like to see a dog, and maybe you don't, well, you probably will see one actually, but you see a dog.
But also maybe not, right? And that's the thing, like, I want to say this, like, make it easy so that you do believe it. I don't have a dog here, so I might not see a dog. And if you work from home and da-da-da-da, it's like, play with it. What could you ask for? Or sometimes it's like, show me the money, and I'll walk outside and there's 10 cents on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Right? Pay attention. Maybe it wasn't the $1,000, but thank you for showing me that, yes, I am capable of bringing 10 cents into my life on the ground. Thank you very much. Right? And I think actually the other thing I want to say here is that we do say thank you. Thank you for showing me. And the other thing I would say is thank you and of course. These are my 2 ways of receiving. Thank you and of course. Because thank you for giving it to me, and of course because I asked for it. And this is the kind of, actually I'll add this in. It's like when you go into a restaurant and you order your meal, you assume that whatever you order is going to come to you. Of course, I ordered this sandwich and of course it came. And if it didn't come exactly how I wanted it, and I'm really fussy about how I wanted it, I'm going to send it back. You know what? It had mustard on it. I hate mustard. So I'm going to send it back and say, you know what? I really don't like mustard, and you sent this with mustard. I asked for it without it. Can you send this again? So I find this was a great way of playing with this, is with dating. Because you can go out, for me, I dated and I went out and met so many men, right? I mean, whatever your preference is. And so I went out, and every night, every time I'd meet a guy, I'd be like, I got that thing that I asked for. Thank goodness. But you know what? I wasn't clear enough on this. Yeah, that part that you gave me, not really right. So then I'd shift it. Then the next guy would come in and be like, yes, thank you. Oh, I missed this part. And every time I always call it dataing, right? Like every time it's like data, I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that wasn't the exact thing I wanted. So then I'd go and ask for it again. And it was amazing how fast, like every day, almost like if I was, depending, right? Every date I would go on, there would be a new factor of saying yes, like this person. So it's the same thing like when we walk into a restaurant and we go, I put my order in. So of course it came. Thank you. Of course it came that way. Of course, because this is exactly how I asked for it. And so when I had the guy, of course it came this way because this is how I asked for it. And I'd like
Mhm.
a little bit different. Thanks. Can I try it this way next time? I'm a little bit different. And so we don't
Mhm.
look at it as failure. We look at it as I got what I asked for. Because generally speaking, you'll get what you asked for.
Mhm.
Right. And if we look at what we are actually asking for, when we look at those unconscious blocks and limitations, the thing will show up, but it might be like, it's not exactly what I thought I wanted, but it is what you asked for. And it is what you
Mhm.
allowed yourself to believe that you could have. And so as we start to shift and we start to change these beliefs, and even as you start to believe in the power of yourself, you'll start to ask for more. And you'll be like, oh, actually, yeah, I got the butterfly, but today I would kind of like it with some pink wings today. And so every time that you ask, you'll get the thing. And we say, of course, thank you.
Mhm.
We recognize it because yes, I got what I asked for. And so then you can thank yourself, thank God, universe, whatever source, for sending me exactly what you wanted, but you didn't know what you
Mhm.
did.
Yeah.
Right? And then it keeps coming because we need to recognize, yes, I did it. Thank you. Yes, you gave this to me. Thank you. And have that
Yeah.
gratitude. And then it keeps
Wow.
coming. Right. Because without that, I mean, like, I think to me, it's one of those quintessential things, the thank you, the celebration, the of course, it's quintessential because then it's like saying, yeah, thank you to me for asking for it, for manifesting it, for receiving, allowing myself to receive. Thank you for doing the
Mhm.
work to see what I wanted, for all that. And thank you, the co-creation, for sending me exactly what I asked for,
Mhm.
even if it isn't really what I wanted.
That's awesome. So we've talked about, like, manifestation, money, masterminds. Ooh, like the 3 M's, masterminds, money, and
Right.
manifestation.
Safe and
Yeah.
holding money too, and holding money.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. So what is the best place for is it kerilynn.love? Is that the best
Yes,
place for
that's my
people to
website.
go?
That is my website. Or I love social media. Like, I'm a
Mm,
Facebook Messenger person. You can come find me there. I'm actually facebook.com/Keri Lynn Loved there as well.
okay.
And so you can come find me there and say hi and message me, or Instagram. I'm i.m.carry.lynn on Instagram.
Okay.
And you can come and find me and message me there. I love having conversations with people about this type of stuff.
Yeah, and it's Keri, Keri, just so
Yeah.
people search correctly.
Yep. And
Well,
Lynn, 2 N's.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today. It's been very interesting and informative. Were there any, like, last words that or things that you wanted to touch on that we hadn't?
I would just say that wherever you are in your journey, there is guaranteed stuff. And I've said this from people who are making the $50,000 mark or whatever that is, to I've worked with 7-figure beyond. And it doesn't
Mhm.
matter where you are. There is stuff that is going to be banging your head against a wall. I call it the invisible glass ceiling that you don't even know exists because you're not actually aware of it. And you are limiting yourself in some way, shape, or form unconsciously and have no idea that you're doing it. And until realistically, I will say until someone comes in and shines a light on there, it's going to be pretty rare that you're going to figure it out for yourself. Because if you could have figured it out already, you would have. So,
Yeah.
whether it's me or somebody else, like whether it's even opening yourself up to conversations with your friends and your family and starting to have conversations around this type of stuff, I really invite you into having the conversation, starting to dive into yourself and be like, get real with yourself. Where am I? Where do I want to be? And what's stopping me from getting
Mhm.
there? And then be willing to go out and make these shifts and changes so that you can have it. Because if there's one thing that I have learned in my life is that you truly can have it all.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It's been great to be here and great to share this and to have a chat with you.